On the eve of the first anniversary of Tropical Storm Erica, Prime Minister Skerrit says Dominica has made remarkable progress and is on course to build back better. Construction of Petro Casas underway for a new settlement in Bellevue-Chopin for displaced Spirit-Savannah residents. And Dominica makes progress on a draft consumer protection bill. I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. The details after this. We begin with Prime Minister Skerrit, who has called for patience and understanding as the country continues to build back better following Tropical Storm Erica. The Honourable Prime Minister sounded the call when addressing the nation on the eve of the first anniversary of the passage of Tropical Storm Erica.
Fellow Dominicans, residents and friends, Saturday, August 27th is exactly 1 year since we witnessed the wrath of Tropical Storm Erica. I use the word wrath because it best conjures up and recreates the scenes of devastation that would have unfolded across our nation as this weather system unleashed its fury over Dominica for the better part of 8 hours. In the months that followed, we have worked hard to reconstruct our lives and rebuild this beautiful nation of ours. We are not yet where we would wish to be in terms of the rebuilding effort, but I am sure all will agree that our progress has been remarkable and we are on course to building back better our beloved Nature Isle. The process of rebuilding is not one that can be rushed, and the reality is that replacing and rebuilding the entire damaged infrastructure and resettling displaced persons is a mammoth task. This government is determined to build a stronger, more resilient Dominica. This concept will be applied to our construction practices and, very importantly, to architectural and engineering designs. There will be greater emphasis placed on environmental issues, and this will be appropriately reflected in our overall national land use policy. Simply put, we will build to create a more secure future for current and future generations from any and all eventualities down the road. Dominicans will never forget the carnage that revealed itself on the morning of August 28, 2015. We have spoken about it repeatedly over the last 365 days, and since then, every single community has been touched in a positive way by the efforts we have made as a government and as a people to reconstruct and recover from this ordeal.
Mr. Skerrit says it is imperative that the country remembers those who lost their lives as a result of the tropical storm.
The occasion of this first anniversary is opportune for us to pause and remember the many who lost their lives during that time. Family and friends are not likely ever to forget them. As a nation, it is important that we too remember those who perished and those who are still suffering physically and emotionally from the passage of Erica. Infrastructural damage can be repaired, and indeed our surroundings can and will be made better than before. But the emotional impact of Tropical Storm Erica shall forever be with us. Those who died have left a void that can never be filled. I believe it is incumbent upon us to intercede unceasingly on their behalf and to celebrate their lives. In this regard, the government has deliberately not opted for a sole commemorative national activity. Though this would be impactful, this would not be as far-reaching as if every single Dominican made it his or her duty this weekend to offer a word of prayer and thanksgiving in memory of those who perished in the encounter with Erica, and also to pray for an ease in the physical and emotional pain still experienced by thousands in our midst. I would therefore like to request all churches in Dominica to include in their services this weekend a special prayer for the victims of Tropical Storm Erica. We need to pray for the souls of those who are no longer with us and for a healing, physical and emotional, of those who continue to carry and bear the pain of that tragic event. My brothers and sisters, Dominica is a God-fearing society. Even if you cannot make it to church, and I would hope that you will make an effort to attend, I would like for every citizen and resident of this country to stop for a moment this weekend and intercede on behalf of the deceased, the bereaved, and the afflicted. I said a year ago, and I reiterate now, that the government shall erect a monument to honor victims of Erica. This will be done when once we have returned a greater sense of normality to the lives of those displaced and most affected. In the meantime, let us use the powerful weapon and armor of prayer to the honor and relief. Fellow citizens, residents, and friends, 1 year has passed since the tragic night of August 27, 2015. 1 year later, we're again challenged and charged with the responsibility of building back better this nation of ours. Let us use this weekend to memorialize those who we lost. Pray for those still afflicted or displaced. Pray that our nation will be spared during this hurricane season. And very importantly, recommit to the task of building Dominica better. May God bless you all. May God bless the Commonwealth of Dominica. I thank you.
And 1 year after Tropical Storm Erica, construction of petrocasters has started at Belleville-Chopin for displaced Petite-Savanne residents. Idona John Baptist visited the project and has this report.
Foundation works are ongoing at the Belleville-Chopin site, which government has acquired to relocate the people of Petite-Savanne displaced by Tropical Storm Erica. We met the project officer and housing division technical officer on site on Friday, and they told us that this is just a section of the 8.62 acres of land for the construction project. They said 44 petrocasters will be constructed here in the initial phase. The site is separated into 70 lots and, of course, can accommodate more houses. The government of Venezuela has donated 300 petrocasters to the Dominica government to assist in the relocation. Venezuelan firm Megawill Energy has been contracted to construct the petrocasters. There's another aspect of the relocation project, and at my back is where Canadian firm MMC will develop houses on over 40 acres of land. This area will be transformed to include a farmers market and commercial unit. The majority of workers on the project are locals. Idona John Baptist, Channel 5 News.
Meantime, the financial burden of Tropical Storm Erica associated with the hardest hit community of Petite-Savanne continues to present a challenge for government. So far, government has spent $6 million to provide rental properties and other necessary support for constituents of Petite-Savanne. MP for Petite-Savanne maintains that no other government across the Caribbean has responded to its people post the disaster in the way in which government has done for the people of Petite-Savanne.
Immediately following, the cabinet and the government took over in terms of getting residents. I mean, the government, as we speak, we're still paying hundreds of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis for rent and guest houses where some other people are located. I think we're talking about between $5 and $6 million that we've spent, and we'll still have to spend. Because, of course, this will continue until the Petite-Savanne people are permanently relocated to the Belleville-Chopin site.
Those displaced also receive a monthly allowance from government.
Sometimes I get a lot, disappointed, discouraged, sometimes when I hear some of the comments or some of the feedback coming from some of my constituents, to give the impression. I know it's being propagated, it's being fueled, of course, by political parties and political motives or operatives. But I think they need to sit down and take stock, as to how we've reached out to people. Because government could very easily say, hey, listen, this is a natural disaster and leave everybody to fend for themselves. I mean, let's be honest. What would these 800 or 1,000 or so people be doing had the government not intervened?
In other news now, while Dominicans are remembering the lives lost during the passage of Tropical Storm Erica this weekend, some will be celebrating the expanded population of another species.
This as the Forestry Division hosts its annual Mountain Chicken Awareness Hike on Saturday. The deadly chytrid fungus had been affecting Dominica's mountain chicken population since 2002, rendering the species endangered. However, senior amphibian technician with the Forestry Division says there is hope for the survival of the mountain chicken in the wild.
So far, we do go out in the field at least Tuesday, Thursdays, berries. And up to Tuesday, we can say we have at least 113 tagged animals. Last week, we actually got 9 juvenile frogs, so that means the population is breeding in the wild. So that's some good news. In breeding right now, we can see that we have a nest, but it's still too early to know if it's fertile or not. So right now, fingers are crossed for the project.
The technician says through the annual hike, Dominicans will be more aware of the plight of the mountain chicken and the role they can play to ensure that the mountain chicken population steadily increases.
The whole aim of the hike is to actually raise awareness for the project and to hike the trails we actually used to have mountain chicken, and some areas has mountain chicken. During the hike, we do have stopping points, and we tell them about the project, what is happening, the areas that frogs used to be found, and about the disease. So it's a part of hiking, but as well educating persons about the plague facing the mountain chicken. The chance of meeting a mountain chicken on the hike is very slim because the frogs are nocturnal. They only come out at night. Chances if you see a frog out in the day, most likely it's sick. And we urge persons, if they see those behavior anywhere around the island, to contact the Forestry Division. I'm on 266-5852 and just let us know.
The hike will take place along segment 1 of the Waitukubuli National Trail and precedes Mountain Chicken Day, observed on 13 September. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
And on the eve of the first anniversary of Tropical Storm Erica, Dominicans are being called upon to exercise patience in the event they have to be housed in an emergency shelter.
The word of advice is coming from the chairman of the Emergency Shelter Subcommittee, John Fontaine. The Emergency Shelter Subcommittee is responsible for updating the shelters list, ensuring that the shelters are properly manned and that communities are in a state of readiness to deal with disaster situations. The subcommittee also works in collaboration with other partners to ensure that buildings designated as shelters are structurally safe. In speaking with Channel 5 News, Fontaine revealed that there are fewer shelters on island as some were rendered unfit for use following Tropical Storm Erica.
If we start with the South Farm in Petit-Savan, well, actually the school, well, Petit-Savan had to be evacuated. But in any event, there was a major slide at the back of the school, which was very, very close. We think that building would be compromised, and you know. So then you move to Pishley, and the river went into a couple of classrooms there. The school was abandoned for a while. There were a number of other schools that were impacted, Corliho, Kulibistri, those that I remember vividly. Some of the shelters, even before Erica, and even currently, some of the shelters on the list are post the hurricane. So we're not advising some persons to go in some shelters before a storm. If it is still standing after hurricane, people can go. So we have some like that are listed.
Erica was described as a special situation in that people were forced to spend a longer period than is usual in an emergency shelter.
We had all types of challenges in shelters. And like what we learned is that in a short-term shelter where, for example, you move in a shelter, as we're accustomed to when there's a hurricane warning and people move into a shelter, you spend a night there or 2 nights there and you go back home by the 3rd day. But once you're in a shelter for 3 days and more, problems. Then you realize the number of washroom facilities that you have, gender issues start coming up, people and their behavioral patterns, and you know, so the list goes on and on and on. And 3-4 months after, when the food supply started going down, you had more challenges. So in the beginning, the food was flowing and stuff, you know, but after that, you know, we had some challenges.
Many lessons were learned across different sectors from the passage of the tropical storm.
Lessons learned, a number of communities, those communities that were impacted, most of them can say today that they have more tools and equipment in the event something would happen. They have more chainsaws, they have more barrows, they have, you know, so that in itself is a plus. Water tanks are everywhere. That is one lesson that we learned. Water, they say, is life. In terms of assessment, that's another lesson we learned. We learned some lessons in terms of distribution. Those things that we are hoping will correct.
There were also several recommendations made to improve already existing emergency shelters.
Having the shelters on the shelter list is one. Ensuring that the shelters can provide to have the correct facilities in place is another. So that is one of the lessons learned at a very early stage, that we are now setting standards. We want each shelter to have backup power, water tank, refrigeration facility, adequate ventilation. These are some of the things that we desire.
Fontaine also implored the Dominicans to be mindful that we are in the hurricane season and all caution must be exercised.
Now that we're in the hurricane season and we're approaching the birthday of Erica and David, I really want residents on the island to continue doing what we're doing. Don't let our guards down. Don't be complacent. And we need to have respect for the Met officers and the people who deal with the weather conditions and give and disseminate information.
The Emergency Shelter Subcommittee consists of the local government commissioner, manager of the housing division, the chief education officer, senior environmental health officer, a representative from the physical planning division, assistant chief welfare officer, and an engineer from public works. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
You are watching Channel 5 News. More news after this. Thanks for staying with us. Dominica made progress this week towards drafting a consumer protection bill. The OECS Commission collaborated with the Ministry of Trade to assess the status of consumer protection regimes on the island.
And the whole goal is to be able to get this bill finalized and ready for passage. So the private sector needs to know that it's going to impact you. There are changes you have to make to your internal policies. And so it is important that they show up at those meetings, show representatives, show interest right now, so that there will be no one indicating that they did not know about it when the bill has been passed.
The Consumer Protection Bill will help protect and enforce consumer rights. Walter says damaged goods should be handled by an officer within the Consumer Affairs Unit.
The stakeholders, for example, on whose behalf we are working, have to take some ownership in the process. For the framework that we are trying to build to be balanced and to be properly developed, to my mind, the private sector has to play a part. They have to ask the right questions. They have to make the right queries. They have to indicate the areas in the legislation that may be onerous for them. And we have to come to some even ground. The process of putting in place a proper and functional legislation, it has to be a consultative process. Because even if CARICOM sends us a harmonized bill, it has to be tweaked to Dominica's unique circumstances. It has to appreciate, it has to recognize our own unique circumstances. And how is the Division of Trade able to do that?
Meanwhile, Senior Legal Counsel of Jamaica's Trade Commission says knowing the usual complaints towards the private sector is vital.
What are the measures that are in place to address these consumer issues? Are they measures at an optimal level in addressing these concerns? Or is it that some tweaking has to be done to ensure a more effective regime? And what are the thoughts of the various stakeholders in terms of what is being proposed at the moment? And how can we assist in the process of ensuring that whatever is put in place is not only consistent with regional or national obligations, but also consistent with cultural preferences, if you will, to the extent that that is permissible under the proposed regime.
And in an effort to raise funds for Dion Green's prosthetic legs, Dominica Association of People Living with Disabilities, DAPD, will host its second radiothon on Sunday. This will be live on DBS Radio. Executive Director of DAPD, Natalie Murphy, told Channel 5 News $4,000 was raised from the first radiothon.
We would like to report to the public and to the patrons who pledged during the radiophone on Q95 that we have been very pleased with the response, because within an hour and 15 minutes we were able to receive over $4,000 in pledges, and to date we have collected $3,884.66. So we think that is really commendable, and we want to say thanks to the people out there for their support. As I said, the next one will be on DBS Radio on August 28th.
Approximately €18,000 is needed to ensure that Green receives proper care and treatment in France. Green has commended the public for the continued support and contributions.
I want to say special thanks to all of them, everybody who contribute in one way or another to assist me in getting my prosthetics. My situation is unique, as you may know, because I'm a double amputee and it's above the knee. So basically, I think I'm the only person like that right now in Dominica. So I'm very, very thankful and appreciative of what the people are doing for me.
He says some of the first things in his to-do list is, for example, dancing, running, and swimming. He explains the challenges faced in Dominica.
Because the sidewalks are not very friendly, the roads are not very friendly. You know, it's just difficult all over. When I have to go into buildings, there's steps, I always have to ask for help, you know, and I feel like my independence is limited in a sense. Whereas if I were to have the legs, then I would be more able-bodied. I'd be more able to, like, go up the stairs maybe, you know, instead of having to ask all the time that somebody would assist me.
Green lost his legs in a horrible accident 16 years ago.
And while we were busing canoe, someone came up in the darkness and threw a ketchup bottle with like paint thinner and paint and gas and stuff. So when it landed between our feet, because we were just putting our shoes to leave, my brother had walked and put his bamboo a distance, and we were just about picking up ours, but we were putting our shoes. And just before we got up to leave, the person threw the thing and it burst right next to the bullseye, what we call the bullseye, with the flame, and it just exploded on me and my friend.
He will travel to France at the end of September, where he expects to spend 2.5 months. And 5 students received assistance for the upcoming academic year through Dominica's Leo Club and Early Childhood Annual Scholarship Program on Thursday. Underprivileged students from various communities attending different primary schools were selected.
We are a non-profit organization. This PAT scholarship project was held under the Early Childhood Committee, and it's our 2nd year running, as she said. These children who are most in need, 5 children receiving scholarships today, consist of stationery, backpacks, lunch bags, and payment of school fees.
President of the Leo Club, Kenita Green, gave details on the students and the schools.
Risha Laurent, I hope I'm pronouncing properly, from Castle-Bruce Primary. Dijon Fagan, from Roseau Primary. Roxy Henry, Roseau Primary. Jamie Frank, St. Martin's Primary. Janelle Talbot from Tressel's Preschool. That's right? Okay. So these are the recipients for this year's PAT scholarship provided by the Leo Club.
That's news. Kenny Williams is next with your sports highlights.
First up, Fashion Line Falcons defeated E.H. Charles Crossover in a closely contended match on Thursday to move into the 2016 DABA Playoff Finals. Falcons finished on 67 and Crossover 63. The combined efforts of Edmund Williams, 16, K. Thomas, 13, Yannick Regis, 11, and Ramal Carbon, 10, with 10 rebounds, helped give Falcons the win over E.H. Charles Crossover. In a losing effort, Lindell Mayers had a game high of 22 with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. McCray Edwards Gibbs got 15 and Sergey Joseph 10 with 12 rebounds for crossover. Meantime, in the women's game, 767 SC Lady Ballers beat Lady Panthers in Game 1 of the best-of-3 series 42-37. Scoring for Lady Ballers was Kayla Winston, 11, Romelcia Phillip, 10, and Melissa Olive Magloire, 7. Panthers' Anika Proctor bagged 11, Joelle Brown and Melissa Winston scored 8 apiece. The league continues on Saturday between Lady Panthers and 767 Lady Ballers at 7 in Game 2 of the best-of-3 finals, followed by Fast Cash Prowlers versus Detroit Blazers at 9 in semi-final game number 2. Those games are carded for Massac Hardcourt. On to cricket now, where two-time World T20 champions West Indies could get a chance to surpass India in the ICC T20 International Team Rankings when they go head-to-head in a two-match series in Florida on August 27 and 28. India is currently second with 128 points, 4 points behind of top-seeded New Zealand. The Windies are on 122 points and can move to second place on 127 if they win India 2-0 on the weekend, which would put India in third place with 124 points. However, a 2-0 win for India would mean a tie with New Zealand on 132 points, with their being ranked second when the ratings are calculated beyond the decimal point. In this scenario, however, the Windies move to fourth position with 118 points, 1 point behind of South Africa. A series draw will keep India ahead on 128 points, with West Indies on 123. In football, 10 Premier and 11 Division 1 teams have been given the green light to participate in the 2016-2017 national football season. Recently, the Dominica Football Association enforced a club licensing initiative where all teams in the men's league needed to form clubs ahead of this football season. The women's teams were not obligated to comply with the request this time around. However, they will be required to obtain a license for the next season. Teams which did not get a license will not be able to participate in the Premier Division nor Division 1 leagues of the DFA. The official list of licensed clubs in the Premier Division are Exodus, Dublin, Point Michel, Southeast, RIC Kensborough, Harlem United, Northern Concrete and Steel Bombers, Waukee Rollers, Bath Estate and Middleham United. The licensed Division 1 teams are Element Agencies LA Stars, Tarish United, St. Mary's Cooperative Delton United, East Central, Gully, RC Doctors, Trafalgar Numbers, Fonkwelly United, Police Sports Club, Soufriere Spartans, and Club Loubier. The only licensed women's club is New India Goodwill Runners. Still in football, the Flow Premier League kicks off this weekend with 5 matches. On Saturday, it will be Southeast versus Northern Concrete and Steel Bombers at Benjamin's Park, while at Dublin, it will be Petro Caribbean Point Michel versus Caribbean Cool Harlem United. Both matches begin at 4 p.m. Then on Sunday, Exodus will come up against Middleham United at Benjamin's Park at 4. And in a doubleheader at Dublin, Bath Estate will battle RIC Kensborough at 3, followed by defending champions Dublin Football Club against Waukee Rollers at 5 p.m. In cycling, President of the Dominica Cycling Association, Ronald Charles, stresses safety as one of the main things to be considered ahead of the cycling awareness event on Saturday.
One of the things that we're really interested in is health and safety, because we realize that sometimes, even normal motorists don't have the necessary respect for cyclists. But also we are saying the cyclists themselves must ensure that they have the necessary gears, the helmet, the proper bikes and so forth, so for their own safety. When you're riding at certain speeds and something happens, it could be very detrimental to the rider. So we're ensuring that all of that is put in place.
Charles says the event will start from Point Michel and end at Bayfront.
We started the event at Point Michel, and hopefully we are going down to, Newtown, Loubier, riding through. We'll be escorted by the police, and we want to again thank them for that opportunity to give us that kind of coverage and escort. So we're really looking forward to it. We'll be going through the botanical gardens. For the young people, what we're saying, the ages between maybe 5 and 10, we'll cut that route shorter. So when they reach at the botanical gardens, they will go down to the Bayfront where the event climaxes. So, and the rest of the cyclists, the grown-ups, the bigger ones, the juniors and so forth, will continue to go down to Wavincock, just below Wavincock area, turn, and then come back to the Bayfront.
Next up, head of the Summer Youth Football Program, Kenrick Emmanuel, says he was pleased with the skill level of the youth under his care since they grasped the fundamentals of the game well. His comments follow the end of a 5-week program targeted at youth football development.
Passing and receiving. I was very impressed because when we started, we couldn't have even string 2 passes. When we ended our camp in our small-sided games, we could see kids passing, doing 5 passes, 6 passes. So that is what the training was all about, is to see the basic of the game develop. Not really for competition, but to see it develop from one given 2 passes, how can we get them to go at the string 5 to 6 passes? So that's what I emphasize on.
He says the kids also caught on to the dribbling aspect of the game.
Dribbling was there because it's individual. Well and truly, dribbling becomes an individual thing. Okay? So yes, we see the talent, we see it's all we can do is nurture it and tell them when to dribble and when not to dribble. But really and truly, whenever you see a kid is a good dribbler, do not stop him. Just make him know, develop it, and let him know when and how to use that skill.
Meantime, coordinator for the Youth Summer Basketball Program, Dunstan Peter, says following the end of the sessions, his plan is to eventually start a basketball academy to help carry the sport forward.
Continuity is very important, and I'm hoping to spin off right from this program to, I've been always wanting to start an academy, but the support, the finance and all those kind of things, the kind of hindrance. But right now, as we have started, the little building block, just going to move on from there with what we have, because a lot of other parents and kids have shown interest because we have been using the social media, always posting the photos and the videos of the program, and a lot of parents have shown interest, like, how much do they pay, and stuff like that. So we're going to put a little group, a committee together so we can start, we just don't have a grounds yet, so we're going to see how we can arrange, put the little pieces together and, hoping to have a 767 sports club, youth academy, basketball, for the basketball in the near future.
And action from the 2016 Giant Malt League resumes this Sunday with 8 games. At 1, KFC Mafia Battlers will face Matadors in Soufriere, Point Michel versus Stowe & Co Hard Hitters in Point Michel, ACS South Defenders against Wharton Waven Stunners in Grand Bay, MCCU Stars versus Max Troy Royal Challengers in St. Joseph, Dubula Almond Stars and Posse Rock Stars in Portsmouth, and Rising Stars versus Galleon Heatwaves in the Grand Bay. At 10 a.m., Police Sports Club will come up against Fantastic Stars at Portersville. That's all the sporting highlights for now. I am Kenny Williams. Do have yourself an awesome weekend.
Your weekend weather forecast is next.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's weather broadcast. I am your presenter, Annie Corrette Joseph. Weak and stable conditions across the region today resulted in occasionally cloudy skies. And across Dominica today, generally fair skies were observed during the earlier part of the day. However, by afternoon, cloudy skies were observed. Radar imagery indicated some localized midday showers over Dominica. The Canefield station recorded just under an inch of rainfall. Conditions for tonight: partly cloudy to cloudy with some scattered showers, and tomorrow cloudy skies with some scattered showers at first. However, as the day progresses, fair to partly cloudy skies with some localized afternoon showers. Sea conditions: slight to moderate in open water with waves up to 5 feet. Taking a look at the extended forecast, fair to partly cloudy skies can be expected throughout the next 3 days. However, some localized afternoon showers can be expected tomorrow, Saturday, and on Sunday. A relatively dry atmosphere will result in fair to partly cloudy skies over the northern and central portions of the island chain. However, cloudy skies with some scattered showers expected over the extreme southern portion. On the international scene, clear skies in New York and Beijing, some partly cloudy skies with some possible thunderstorm activity over Miami, London, and Caracas. The sun will rise tomorrow at 5:52 a.m. and set at 6:21 p.m. For up-to-date information, log on to our website at weather.gov.dm or call the weather hotline at 447-5555. Thank you for viewing and join us next time. Good night.
To end the news, the headlines again. On the eve of the first anniversary of Tropical Storm Erika, Prime Minister Skerrit says Dominica has made remarkable progress and is on course to build back better. Construction of petrocasas underway for a new settlement in Belleville-Chopin for displaced Petite-Savanne residents. And Dominica makes progress on a draft consumer protection bill. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. To our viewers around the world, thanks for watching.